So at this point in the presentation, people are a lot of times thinking, really? Happiness as a successful business model? Come on, give me a break. And so, of course, I have to go back to my case study, Zappos.com. And this is a picture of it in Las Vegas. Believe it or not, there's not a rainbow over it every day. But when I think of Zappos, I think of this quote by Maya Angelou. And what she said was, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I not only put this up there because I love it as a personal mantra, but a company that just happens to be named Zappos actually uses this for day-to-day business decisions. This is a picture of the Kentucky warehouse. Yes, some might say a woman's dream closet. Others might say a man's ultimate nightmare. But I put this up there because there's been so much time, money, resources to make this one of the most efficient warehouses in the world. But the reason why they did that was not to say, hey, look at us, we've got amazing technology. The reason why they did this was because of PEC, what they call internally, personal emotional connection. How Zappos is so dedicated to this so that every customer they touch has this PEC. All the customer service team reps don't have call times or scripts. Actually, the last record that was broken for one single call time was 10 and a half hours with one single customer. And it resulted in a pair of shoes sold for about $49.99. And some people might think, that's not going to make finance very happy, will it? But the point is, it doesn't matter because they are dedicated to this idea of PEC. Another thing they're doing is pretty interesting that they're testing out is they're actually routing calls. So if let's say there's a call coming from New York City, they'll try to route that call to a customer service rep that actually lived in New York City or was born in New York City so they can have a meaningful conversation instead of talking about something that is no substance to both parties. But what's interesting is that Zappos is known for customer service, but that's actually not their priority internally at all. Their priority is company culture. And the thought there is that if you get company culture right, everything else like great customer service, higher productive, more engaged employees actually come more naturally. And even though this was sort of a test at Zappos, there are other people, experts in the business field, trying to get an understanding of what separates a company from good to great. What separates a company that can be sustainable, that weathers those ups and downs of economic times. And what they found was very counterintuitive. They found that it's actually having to focus on company culture and having a higher purpose so your employees and all the people in your ecosystem can be inspired by. So these are two great books, Good to Great from Jenn Collins, and Tribal Leadership is another one I recommend. So how would you come back to say thinking, you know, culture sounds pretty fluffy. How do you make that a priority? So I'll name a few things that Zappos does. One of the things is they call it the $4,000 to quit. And essentially, every candidate going through the 5-week training has this standing offer of $4,000 to quit. No questions asked, take the check, and out the door, thank you very much. And actually, they're about to increase it now because not enough people are taking it. And the reason why they do this is because they want everyone to be so sincere about being committed to this idea of culture and core values, that it's not just a plaque on the wall. And if you think about it, because we all know when we have a bad hire and have to go through the transition phase of firing that person, rehiring another one, that actually amounts to 150 to 300% of that person's salary and increased cost for the company. So it's actually saving Zappos money in the long run. Another thing we do is called the Zappos Culture Book. And so this came out probably about 12, 13 years ago. And the idea was, it was just when Zappos just created their core values. And we asked ourselves, like, how do you define something like culture? So then we said, why don't we ask our employees? So what we did from that year on was just ask them every year, submit 2 to 3 paragraphs of what they think Zappos culture means to them. And so we put all those submissions, and then we eventually asked customers and vendors as well, and we put them all in a physical book. And we actually printed it totally unedited. So that meant that good stuff was in there and the bad stuff was in there for a very transparent look to see whether or not, as Zappos grew as a company, whether or not their culture was sustainable and scalable over time. And luckily for them, I think it's because of their commitment to culture that it has been successful in doing so. And so we actually shipped this book or sent it out to people anywhere in the world. And even though Zappos doesn't send any shoes or anything outside of the US, they've got fans in Brazil or Japan because they just believe in what Zappos stands for. So going back to this idea of values, what do they really mean? Because as a KPMG consultant, I'd go to all these clients and we'd see these fancy plaques on the wall with, here's our values, here's our mission statement. But when I go around and ask people, oh, do you know your values? And a lot of people would just shrug and say, I actually don't know them all. But what's interesting at Zappos and delivering happiness is that every single employee knows their values. And the reason why I think that's the case is because it's not just to have a value at work, it's actually a value for life. So it was so interesting in the culture book submissions, reading how people, employees, were actually applying these values outside of the workplace, saying, oh, I wanted to live up to killer value number 3, so therefore I decided to, buy a coffee for someone behind me in line. And so one of these values that I'll just talk about, I won't name every single one. One of my favorites is number 3, which is create fun and a little weirdness. And this one I particularly like just because it's just kind of their own way of saying, just be yourself. It's actually an interview question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you? And I like asking that question in live audiences because those that are smiling from ear to ear are probably on the 8, 9, 10 end of that scale. But the reason why they ask this question is not for a certain number, it's for the reaction. Will that candidate feel comfortable being true to their weird, authentic self at work? And more importantly, are they going to feel comfortable that others around them are going to be true to their weird, authentic self as well? So this is just one company that focused on those two things. Company culture, customer service, and is now the $2 billion gross merchandise sales company it is today. And as many of you know, was acquired by Amazon for about $1.2 billion at the time of closing a few years ago. But what the great thing is that it's not just Zappos doing it. There's a lot of other companies out there in the world that understand and are doing it themselves. This is a graph that's simply showing of those 100 best workplaces in the US that the Fortune magazine puts out every year. In the last 10 years, those companies that focus on employee well-being actually perform better than the S&P 500. And we all know how turbulent economically the last 10 years has been. But yet, this is still what we see in workplaces everywhere around the world.